Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very special unboxing, something that came in our Apex group. This comes in from Knife Dope. If you haven't checked him out, he used to be Puerto Rican with a knife. Awesome dude over there. Check out his knife channel. He's a little spicy, so if you like spicy and a little edgy, that's your guy, man. I'm telling you, it's pretty cool. So I think he's entertaining because he's just raw and edgy, and I think that's interesting, and I love interesting. But if that's not your cup of tea, I understand. Just want to warn you ahead of time. But if you're cool with that, definitely check him out. He's kind of like the hot salsa, you know what I'm saying? He's really cool. So that's just me giving some kudos out to a good guy, but this is coming in from him. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I don't remember which knife this is exactly, so we're just going to open this up and take a look and see what we got. All right, today, by the way, I'm opening up this with my Enrique Pena. This awesome series, part of his X series. This is the Bravo. Love his knives, love his designs, especially in the superlative when he does it with Javi Garcia. Definitely check those guys out. So let's see what we got here. Okay, we got a QSP. All right, very good, very good. Let's put this off to the side. So this is the Swordfish. All right, a Swordfish 14C28N. So definitely going to be a budget knife. Very cool, which could be good or interesting or whatever. Let's see here. Typical stats. Here's your, okay, so we look like what we got here. Thank you for choosing. All right, so this looks like we've got a, what do you call this? Is this a, maybe a Warncliffe, probably? A reverse Tonto, probably? It's along the size of, it reminds me a little bit of perhaps the Penguin, right? But it's like the Swordfish, and so I bet it's because it's supposed to look like a swordfish. Now it's a button lock, very good. Thumb studs, really cool. Dead center, it's got a long blade, little swedge here, it looks like kind of a big one. Wire clip, reversible, lefties rejoice. Nicely rounded, two-tone G10, so black G10 on top with a red G10 inside. It is a flipper, very cool. So you got thumb studs, you got a flip, you got a button lock, and you've got a flipper, so multiple ways to deploy, reversible. Pretty good size knife, yeah. So let's go ahead and give this a thumb flick here real quick. Pretty nice action, I gotta say. All right, so let's see how the button works. Pretty good. The flipper works pretty good. All right, so let's see. Yeah, you can do the little button actuation there as well. Can I get my finger over here on this and do a middle finger reverse flick? Let's see, can we do it? The button lock's a little tight for that. Can I do it in the reverse side? Sometimes? No, it's a little tight on that. It means the button lock's engaged well, so there's no, maybe slight little bit of rock there with the button lock, which is typical. Sometimes you get a little bit of movement there. Let's see, is it locked in place? That's a little loose. We might have to tighten that up because that seems kind of loose. So let me go ahead and do that. Normally we don't do anything to these knives, but if they are loose, we can tighten them just to make sure that we don't damage the knife, right? So I'm going to use a T8. I believe this is a T8, so let's just confirm. Yeah, it's a T8. All right, so let me go ahead and tighten that up just a little bit because it shouldn't have blade rock, right? Yeah, it felt a little loose. All right, so let's see. Much better. All right, there we go. All right, let's see. Did that change that? No, it's still got a little bit of lock, and that's because this is a plunge lock. And the way the plunge lock works, it engages. You've got an angle on the blade. The tang of the blade is like an angle. It's sort of like what you have on like a frame lock, right? When you engage a frame lock, you'll see that little bit of an angle right there, right? So in the plunge lock, you have a similar situation, except instead of a lock bar going in there, it's the button, and it's pushed in by a spring. And the part of the button engages on the inside of the tang of the blade, similarly like a lock bar does, just like that, okay? So that's very similar in that regard. But in this case, with the plunge lock, you know, it's going straight down, and sometimes, depending on, you know, where the blade is and everything, it can, depending on the spring too, you know, is the spring fully engaged, it can have a little bit of rock when it's down in the low part, because in here it's not fully locked in, and it's not locked in place, right? When you open it up, it locks, and it keeps it in place. But when it's not here, it's just kind of overcoming a little curve on the lock bar, where, you know, it's kind of like, this is what this plunge lock detent, you can call it. It's equivalent to a detent. It has to overcome. So it's a lot of nerdy stuff. I know some of you guys would be like, you know, wah, 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 like Charlie Brown, you know, kind of like, what the heck is he talking about? But I'm just trying to, you know, give you some information, take it for what you will, ignore it, skip ahead if you don't like it, right? But if you're interested, I just kind of want to, you know, share my thoughts on that. But I'm okay with that. It's a pretty robust blade. Look at that. It's a really nice blade. It's got a beautiful flat grind because it's so high. Yeah, it comes down to a very thin grind, a ridiculously pokey tip there. So if you need something to poke through, like, you know, cat litter, dog food, mulch, fertilizer, whatever, that blade will definitely be very functional. Be a good pokey knife to cut through cases of water, what have you. very utilitarian. You can really come up and do some nice precision cuts. Can you choke up here? You sort of could with small finger, but I wouldn't recommend it. This is a sharpening choil. It's not really a full finger choil, so you can get really close to that edge. I don't recommend that at all. But I have plenty of room. I have large hands widthwise, medium lengthwise, so my fingers are shorter for a large hands. But definitely widthwise, they're large hands. So an extra large, double extra large, I think you have plenty of room. Anything more than that, you're going to be over the edge. Even then, you could sort of use that edge there. I got a little dirt on my hand. I was working in the yard today. So anyways, that's that. Everything's nicely chamfered all the way around. That's comfortable. The lock works pretty good. Yeah, works pretty good, which is nice because sometimes I had some issues with some of the other QSPs just gotten into the button lock game, and so they're ironing out their details, and I think they're doing a really good job. But the first one I got was a little rough around the edges. I think it was more like a prototype, first run sort of thing, and it was rough. And they replaced it because I said, hey, it's not great. Second one was much better, and I think things are just improving, so that's awesome. That being said, these are T6s, which I'm not a big fan of T6s. This is a T8, which is great. These are T6s, so just have to deal with that. T6s all the way around. Is that a T8 there? Well, how about that? It is a T8 for the pivot for the pocket clip, right? The wire pocket clip. So it's a T8. So T8, T8, T6, T6, T6. And probably not much to take apart on something like this unless you want to put it in washers. But this is definitely going to be a budget line. So it's 14C28, 14C28 and blade steel, which is one of the best budget steels out there. Very good budget steel. So this makes this a very interesting knife, I think. If you're looking for, if you're on a budget, you're wanting to give a gift, or you're wanting not to spend a whole lot of money on a really big workhorse type of knife, if this aesthetic speaks to you, and this is a very utilitarian type of blade. This is really work centered, depending on, like if you're working in a warehouse, or you're in an office and you're cutting a lot of boxes, or you're opening a lot of letters and envelopes. Let's say you receive a lot of packages. You're an engineer and you're sending and shipping stuff all the time. This has some utilitarianness to it, and I bet there's different colors, different combinations than this. Black and red is pretty cool. I do like that. I think that's kind of neat, but I bet there's different colors. And I'll put some links down below for this knife, obviously, and it'll probably be the generic link to the, what do we call this? The Swordfish, the QSP Swordfish. So we'll definitely have a little generic link for that. But the action is pretty good. It's pretty heavy duty blade. It's not super thick. It looks like it's about 0.11, maybe 0.10, 0.12. Now it's about 0.11, maybe 0.10. It's 1/10 of an inch. It feels more like 1/10 of an inch. So it's pretty thin. It's going to be nice slicey. It does have a swedge here, like I said. Helps you navigate. So that definitely would be a cutter. I do like its 14C28. That makes this really utilitarian in a lot of ways, because I feel like this is going to be really in a lot of people's wheelhouse for use. And if you notice, it does have steel liners. Steel liners have a lot of weight relief, which is really cool. It has a back spacer, and that's a G10 back spacer, which is nice. It does have a lanyard hole for those of you guys who love lanyard holes. And I do like the fact that this is a deep pocket carry clip, almost completely concealed in carry. It'll be the same both sides, so that's nice. Now it is a button lock. I wouldn't go out chopping woods. I wouldn't go out chopping wooden blocks or anything like that, right? Button locks are never really my choice, because it's a spring kind of actuation, and the spring with enough vibration, sooner or later that lock could disengage if there's enough vibration, enough angle, momentum, and everything on there. So you have to keep that in mind, right? I'm a bigger fan of something like a frame lock, because here you squeeze in, I'm engaging that lock and I'm keeping the lock in place as I'm working on this knife. It's not going to disengage. That's the benefit with a frame lock, I think. Now, here you have the cage ball lock system from Spyderco, which is similar to the ram lock. Not similar, but the idea of the physics. So you have something coming in on the blade, it's locking in, it's locking the blade in place, and it's really holding it solidly in place. And this is a very, very strong sort of lock. This is up there with, I would say, with yeah, I know some of you guys are going to freak out when I say this, so hold your horses. Don't freak out, okay? But you're getting up there with the shark lock. I know the shark lock is a different level. I get it. And some of you guys are going to be like, what about the scorpion lock? Well, okay, all right. I still think the shark lock is better. You can throw tomatoes at me if you'd like, but I still like the shark lock as my favorite. But I think the Spyderco ball cage lock is really amazing, and that's a great lock. I wish they'd do more of them. All they have them is on a Mannix. Why? Come on, bring more in. I like the ram lock from Microtech. I think that's ingenious. That is really, and there's a lot of things about that I think is awesome. But button lock, this is really good, nice, useful knife. I think for everyday EDC type of things, you're really going to enjoy this. I think there's a lot of benefit to this. Really, really nice action, easy to deploy, The button lock works well. I can reverse flick it. The flipper works really well. Now I can do the light switch here. Let me see if I can do the button lock, the push switch. Can I do that? Yeah, I can do the push. So you can do the button switch and then you can do the light switch. So both work really nicely. That's really cool. With that flipper, you get that kind of little extra guard there. So if you're doing some hard work, that's nice to know that's in place. That's always really cool. So if something were to disengage, this would still have to, it would have to get past your hand there. If you're really tight, if you've got a full presentation on this knife and your finger is really engaged up there, you're going to keep it locked. So that's always a nice little safety feature with a flipper. One of the reasons why I like it for like a hard use knife, I always think it's nice to have a guard. It's nice to keep it locked up there to make sure it doesn't disengage. I think there's some benefits, especially if you're going to do button lock, right? Left-handed, can you disengage that? Let me see, when does a knife fully disengage? So it disengages about right there. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you've got the weird grip and you could go up there, see, I can't do it. It doesn't work naturally for my hand to disengage. It goes right into the little crease of my hand. So I guess if you got a weird shaped hand and different length fingers, I don't know, maybe it will, but why are you holding a knife like this if you're cutting? Hold it back. That makes no sense to me, right? You're not going to be able to choke up on it, so I think you'll be fine with this knife like this. And I think your finger right here is going to keep it in place should anything disengage it, especially if you happen to bang, you happen to do a little, choppy kind of thing, if this is like you decide you're going to make an axe out of it, which I think is stupid, personally, no offense, but I don't think that's a smart move with a button lock. I don't think it's a smart move with any knife, right? I mean, get a fixed blade or get yourself an axe, right? That's my two cents on that. But I think this would be really nice. I think it's kind of a unique aesthetic. I like that. It's got some size to it. It feels like a penguin in a way, but with a more pokey tip. The penguin is a little more reverse tanto looking, right? This has got a little more pokey tip. It's got a little more utilitarian kind of use for work, like if you're working, opening boxes, you're working at a grocery store, you're opening pallets, closing pallets. If you're a truck driver, you're opening, closing things. What's always nice about a button lock, it's one-handed, right? It's one-handed action, really quick and multiple, and super fidgety. I like that, super fidgety. Now, I will tell you the button lock deployment's a little tight on this, and that could be because it's a strong spring and it will break in. I don't know how new this is. I don't think this has been passed around for a long time, but it is a little tight, and I would assume that breaks in after a while, right? But, if you like this type of knife, it's got a lot of benefits. I think it's cool. Yeah, I do like that. I do like that a lot. I like the pseudo speed holes. It kind of gives you that aesthetic without being in there, and it lines up with the holes inside. If you see the weight relief for the steel liners, that's kind of cool. And that definitely gives you some rigidity with the steel liners. Make sure that you're not going to be bowing the knife or anything like that. So that's nice. I like that. What else? Everything's nice and rounded back there. It makes it really comfortable. Very useful. Very useful. Yeah, I'm digging this knife. I think this is a great budget consideration. And this is something I think if I'm going to ask friends I'm buying them a knife or something, I'm going to say, hey, what do you think about this one? I would probably put this in one of the recommended, I haven't done my full review. This is just an impressions, right? So this is just unboxing impressions, but I would say this is something I could see myself saying, hey, if I was going to say, if you want a knife, I was going to buy you one, here's a few options. What do you think of this? I would actually include this as one of those knives to suggest. At least my first impression is right now. We'll handle this knife a little bit and do the full review, but I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm digging this. Still nicely centered. I do like that. It's got a lot of positives to it. So let's go ahead and do a little close-up so you guys can take a look. So let's look at the blade. You can see that nice stone wash blade. I love the stone wash. That really helps any kind of imperfections. If you use it, you get little scratches. It really almost invisible, right? That's nice for like a use knife. Here's the button lock up here. It does stick out a little bit. You can see that when it's engaged, when it's locked away, it's a little less, but it still sticks out as well. It's not terrible, right? It's not fully in the recessed area. So, it's easy to access. It's not one of these where you have to get your finger all the way in there. So if you have hard to get it in there, you can just use a flat finger and you can engage it with just a flat finger on there. You don't have to find that little tip to get in there. So benefit one way, maybe annoyance to another, but there you go. And I like that red and black G10. That's really nice, I think. Let's look at the back. You can see wire clip, absolutely reversible, which is super, super cool. I like the thumb studs. You could replace those. T6 little screw in there to do that. So let's look at the whole knife here, the front. Let's look at the whole knife here in the back. I think it's a pretty cool little knife. Definitely worth your consideration or thoughts, right? So this is the QSP Swordfish. First impression, unboxing, kind of cool. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I think we're going to have to do a little bit more hands-on, you know, flip it all around. I don't do any hard use. This is part of the pass around. So I don't get to go out, carry it, you know, take it apart, oil it, do anything like that, unless it's rusty. You know, then we might put a little oil just to make sure, keep the knife in good shape. But otherwise, I'm not going to do anything to modify or adjust this knife whatsoever. I'm not going to hard use it. I probably won't cut anything with it. It does have a nice edge for sure, which is typical of 14C28. And I will tell you, I'm not sharpening, but 14C28 strops up really nicely on a nice leather strop, and I do like that because it's pretty easy to maintain an edge like that. It's like 154 CN. I like 154 CM steel. That's easy to strop as well. S90V can be a pain in the butt, but man, once you get it nicely stropped, it's gorgeous. Okay, so I have a Olamic custom whippersnapper that's an S90V. Took me forever to strop that up to a beautiful edge. Now, could I resharpen it? Sure, but it was just beautifully edged already. All I had to do was strop it, and I like it to be crazy sharp. I don't like just razor sharp. I like crazy sharp. So I stropped it for a few weeks and finally got it to the edge where I can now sharpen. I can, you know, shave my arms, and I can shave a hair, which to me is a nice edge. I like edges like that. So anyways, so there you go. That is the Swordfish by QSP. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts, things you'd like to see about the knife. If you have any questions about this unboxing, any questions for the review, let me know in the comments down below. I do try to reply to all the comments. Love to talk to you guys. I do try to engage. That's the joy of this channel, for me at least, is to be able to talk to you guys. Hey, if you found this content fun, interesting, worthwhile, entertaining, or informative, would you please consider hitting the like button down below? If you've already hit the like button, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button. Subscribing and liking the videos really helps out the channel. It allows me to produce more content, do more things, and ultimately more things for you guys. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. If you've done all that, maybe consider hitting the notification button so you can be notified of future content when it's released. Hey, and if you've done all that, hey, go check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.